Good evening to you all. Welcome to Talk the Book, the book review program of AP State Council of Higher Education. Today, Assistant Professor in English, Anil Neerukonda, Institute of Technology and Sciences. And Dr. P. Suresh Kumar is going to review a popular science book of 2011, Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. This particular science book, though we say it as a popular science book, it deals mostly with the psychology of the main thesis of differentiating between the two modes of thought. One is the fast, instructive, and emotional. And the second mode of thought is slow, which is deliberative and logical. So we are going to have this popular science book, Thinking Fast and Slow, being reviewed by Dr. P. Suresh Kumar. Dr. P. Suresh Kumar, he has a post-graduation degree in English from Andhra University and also holds a doctoral degree from Andhra University. And he also co-authored a textbook on communicative English, a pragmatic approach to language learning. And the main research focus for him is the field of critical thinking. And thesis award for his research in the field of critical thinking. And mostly, maybe because of this interest in the field of critical thinking, he had chosen this particular science book, Thinking Fast and Slow. So now over to you, Dr. Suresh Kumar.
Thank you, sir. First, I'd like to thank Professor Hemachandra Reddy, sir, Chairman APSHE, for initiating such a wonderful program. And I feel very happy that I am a part of this program. To begin with, life on Earth is a story about the vast number of living things that exist on Earth, from tiny germs to tall trees, from birds to creatures that live deep in the ocean. Out of all the living things on the earth, humans stand out due to their advanced cognitive abilities, enabling them to anticipate abstract concepts and engage in complex reasoning. You could say animals can think too, but only about certain things like their food and their prey. Through evolution, humans improved their ability to think. Thinking came up with many new ideas and used their thinking build complex societies and cultures. Human societies worldwide have continually progressed and created over time, expanding their capabilities and accomplishments. People have been able to change the world around them in a big way, and they keep pushing the limits of what is possible because of this. These cultures and civilizations did amazing things in building, engineering, and cultures. Colonialism, World War I, World War II, and civil rights movements all had an impact on the world. As we know it today, each of these things has had a long-term effect on society and still does in the modern world. So 25 years ago, a cell phone was a fancy thing. These days, almost everybody has one. In the same way, there were not many scholars who could seriously think about what to do and not to do 100 years ago. Most people used to make bad choices because they did not have enough information or direction. This progression underscores the power of human thinking, driving us towards innovation and societal evolution. Thus, it becomes evident that thinking, particularly critical thinking, holds immense significance for individuals, guiding them towards informed decision making and fostering societal advancement. Today, I have selected a remarkable book to review that is Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, first published in 2011. You can see a copy of this. The title itself explains the way we think. Sometimes we think quick and sometimes we think slowly. Before I talk about the book, let me give you a brief introduction about the author. Daniel Kahneman, an Israeli-American psychologist, author, and Nobel Prize winner, has played a vital role in shaping our comprehension of human behavior and decision-making process. In 2002, Daniel Kahneman was awarded the Nobel Prize in Economic Sciences for his pioneering work in integrating psychological insights into economic theory, particularly in understanding human judgment and decision making under certainty. This recognition established his status as one of the most influential psychologists of his generation. His seminal work, Thinking Fast and Slow, has become a cornerstone textbook in understanding the complexities of human cognition and decision making, captivating audience worldwide with its accessible yet profound insights. Now we move on to the main book. Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman is a fascinating exploration of human mind's complexities, exploring the dual systems that govern our thinking process. As I said earlier, it was published in 2011. The book is structured into 5 parts and 38 subtopics. 5 parts and 38 subtopics. In all these parts, Daniel Kahneman discusses about 2 systems of thinking. In the first part, he explains, it gives introduction about 2 systems, how we think in a fast way and in a slow way. And second part, he talks about heuristics and biases. In the third part, he talks about overconfidence. In the fourth part, he talks about choices. And the fifth part, 2 selves. He talks about 2 selves. Each one explores different aspects of human decision-making process. In all these things, he talks about the system. The part 1 has 10 subtopics. In this book, Kahneman explains the concept of 2 thinking systems and how they interact in decision-making. System 1 and System 2, providing insights into their distinct characteristics and roles in decision-making. System 1. What is System 1? System 1 is little faster, intuitive, and operates automatically. And System 2, which is slow, deliberate, requires conscious effort. That means when somebody asks a simple question, we immediately answer it without any hesitation, without any taking time. But when we are asked about our future or a big decision, we think a lot. So that is the difference, System 1 and System 2. System 1 operates automatically, fastly, and System 2 takes time, and with conscious efforts, it will decide what to do or what not to do. In this first unit or first chapter, it talks about, the Kahneman talks about the characters of the story. That means for System 1 and System 2, Again, he explains deeply about system 1 and system 2. System 1 works naturally by associating things without thinking. Without thinking, we can answer questions, we can take decisions, we can make choices easily, little faster. When we talk about system 2, is more planned and calculated and needs to work more. That means when we are taking big decisions, critical decisions, we think a lot. We think critically. We plan. We take a lot of time to take a decision. He says that both methods are necessary, but they can be biased and mistakes. They can be biased and mistakes. Both the systems are necessary for our human survival. But sometimes we will do mistakes. The second part, he talks about attention and effort. Kahneman discusses the limited nature of system 2's attention and efforts, highlighting that it can become depleted after prolonged use. He explains how tasks that require cognitive effort can affect subsequent decision making and mental tasks. In part 1, third unit, lazy controller. In this section, Kahneman talks about how system 2 does not like to think hard and instead relies on system 1's natural processes whenever it can. He talks about how important it is to teach system 2 to step in and overrule intuitive but wrong decisions when they happen. In fourth chapter, associative machine, this part looks at how system 1 easily comes up with coherent patterns of thoughts and ideas based on learned connections and things that have happened in the past. Kahneman talks about how these links can cause mistakes and bad decisions. Part 1, fifth chapter, cognitive ease. In this part, Kahneman talks about the ideas of cognitive ease, which is when everything is known, the world makes sense, and information flows easily. In sixth chapter, norms and surprises and causes. This chapter talks about how system 1 makes quick decisions by using rules and associative coherence. He talks about how surprises and breaking assumptions can make system 2 think more carefully in order to make senses of what's going on. Chapter 7, mechanic for jumping to conclusions. Kahneman studies how system 1 tends to quickly judge and make choices based on little knowledge, which can lead to mistakes and biases. In his talk, he talks about how these quick decisions can be both useful and prone to mistakes. Overall, in part 1, in a nutshell, thinking fast and slow is the first part that helps you to understand the two ways of thinking and their pros and cons and biases. In this section, or in this part, Kahneman shows how these systems work together and affect how we make decisions. This sets the stage for more research in the next part of this book. In part 2, he talks about heuristics and biases. Kahneman talks about different cognitive biases and patterns that affect how people perceive and make choices. His research into ideas like anchoring, availability, heuristics, and frame effects shows how these mental shortcuts can cause mistakes and bad decisions. In this part, in the second part, he talks about law of small numbers, anchors. These two are very important in this book. The first thing Kahneman talks about is how people often use small numbers to judge bigger groups, which leads to wrong conclusions. He talks about how this trend, called the law of small numbers, can lead to unfair decisions when statistical rules are not taken into account. And in the second second chapter, anchors. In this part, Kahneman talks about the ideas of anchoring, which means that people make decisions or predictions based on the first piece of information they see. He talks about a number of studies that show how anchoring can cause people to make decisions that are not the best ones. You, let me show you a small clip about anchoring. I'm unable to share the screen. Let me continue. When you go to shopping malls, you can see some items are placed and with a offer tag. Actual price is, for example, 600 rupees, but the price tag shows that it is 1000 rupees item, but you will get 40% offer on this particular day. By looking at those two tags, and the customers will try to buy that particular object because there is an offer. Actually, there is no offer. This particular offer tag is anchor, which is capturing the customer's eyes. So the customers try to buy that particular object by looking at these anchors. They don't know whether they are doing right thing or wrong thing, but they are trying to purchase the same thing with the correct price. Okay, next, the second part, third unit, the science of availability. Kahneman describes the availability of heuristics, which is how people figure out how likely to common something is based on how quickly examples of it can be thought of. He talks about how these heuristics can cause people to make unfair decisions, especially when events that are very vivid or emotional are remembered more clearly. And second part, unit 4, availability and emotions, he talks about feelings affect that availability, heuristics, and that affects the risky decisions that follow. He talks about how emotionally charged events can change how people think about risk, making them overestimated and chances of rare but strongly recommended events. In another part, he talks about the story of Tom W., a military analyst, to show what can we go wrong when you rely too much on your knowledge and do not pay enough attention to base rates. In this section, he talks about how experts can make bad decisions based on biased examples instead of statistical rules. One example of this is the representativeness heuristics. Next one is judgments happen again. Kahneman talks about how system 1 makes intuitive decisions based on associative consistency and how System 2 can step in and fix mistakes when we make mistakes. Next one is answers to frequently asked questions. Kahneman answers common questions and clear up misunderstandings about heuristics and biases, giving us more information about how people make decisions and judge things, explains important ideas and gives useful tips for lessening the effect of biases in different situations. Overconfidence. Kahneman talks about overconfidence, which is when people are too sure of their own skills and judgments, even when evidence points in a different directions. He talks about how being too sure of yourself can cause you to make mistakes, make bad decisions, and not learn from your mistakes. Next part is choices. Kahneman talks about how people make choices when they are faced with risk and uncertainty. He emphasized how framing effects and prospects theory can change people's tastes. He talks about how people often don't follow rational choice theory, acting in a way that avoid risks when they are winning and acting in a ways that seeks risk when they are losing. Frames and reality. Next part. Framing impacts decision making. This means that the way people are giving choices can make change how they make decisions. People can make bad choices and have different views because of framing effects, which Kahneman talks about. This shows how important it is to know how the situations were in change the choices and decisions we make. To conclude the second part, the cognitive trends and common pitfalls that influences human decisions making processes, shedding light on the intricacies of thought and choice. He does this. He looks at the thoughts behind these things. He shows with facts and stories from real life how these mental tricks can make you make the same mistake over and over. He also tells people how to spot them and lessen the damage they do. Part 3 talks about overconfidence, focuses on the theme of overconfidence, discussing how people tend to be overly confident in their judgments and predictions. Kahneman examines the reasons behind this phenomena, highlighting the role of cognitive biases and limitations of intuition. In this part, first one is the illusions of understanding. The first thing Kahneman talks about is the illusion of understanding. This is when someone thinks they understand something better than they really do. This trick comes from way system 1 writes stories that make sense and move well, he says. This makes people think they know more than they actually do. And second one is the illusion of validity. Illusion of validity. Kahneman talks about the illusion of validity in this chapter is when people are too sure that their views are correct and reliable, even though they do not have any proof of back them up. His ideas can change how people judge things and cause them to have too much faith in their ability to see into the future. Next part is intuitions versus formulas. This is how Kahneman shows that people believe their gut more than statistical models, even though the models are more accurate. He compares intuitive decisions to mathematical predictions. People don't believe simple algorithms because they are too sure of themselves, according to the studies he talks about. Next part is expert institution. Expert intuitions when we can trust it. These are the times when Kahneman says you can trust your expert sense and time when you should not. He talks about the qualities of places where experts can get really good at what they do and becomes very good at it. He also talks about how being too sure of yourself can be bad and how you should not always trust your gut when things are uncertain or difficult. Another part is outside view. Kahneman comes up with the ideas of outside view, which means using past data and big picture statistical trends to help you decide what to do or what will happen. He says that people focus on unique things and events when they have the inside view, which can make them overconfident and forget about base rates. Illusion of skills. This particular topic talks about which is when people think that their success is due to their own skills instead of luck or chance. Kahneman talks about how this bias can make people cocky and full of themselves, especially in competitive situations where skills and luck are mixed. To conclude the second part, Kahneman goes into more details in part 3 about the various symptoms of overconfidence and how people's thought process contribute to them. He shows through empirical study and real life examples how being too sure of yourself can lead to bad decisions, bad behavior, and mistakes in judgment. It shows how important it is to be more aware and skeptical when judging our own abilities and beliefs. In part 4, Kahneman talks about or goes more into details about how hard it is to make decisions, especially when there is danger and uncertainty involved. Kahneman talks about prospect theory, which is about how people think about possible gains and losses, and things that affect how people make decisions when they don't know what will happen. In this particular part, he talks about duration, neglect, and the peak end rule, the two selves, and substitution principles, happiness and well being. And at the end, the part 4 is mostly about how complicated it is for people to understand happiness and well being and make decisions. It shows how memory and experience shape our ideas about these things. When we are talking about part 5, the last part of this book, talking about feeling self and the remembering self and how they affect how we think about happiness and well-being. Kahneman uses studies from psychology and behavioral economics to talk about how these different parts of yourself affect making decisions and being happy with your life. In this particular part, he talks about conflict between present and future selves. Kahneman studies conflict between our present selves who want pleasure and satisfaction right now, our future selves who wants long-term success and happiness. Making choices and keeping your cool are both affected by this struggle. In another chapter, planning fallacy. When people plan for future, they tend to be too positive and not take into account enough time, resources, problems that will need to be resolved or solved. This mistake, belief, or called planning fallacy. Fallacy means when we are talking about fallacies, it is mistakes we make unknowingly or knowingly. We think that is our arguments are correct, but that is wrong. That is fallacy. Optimism and pessimism. Kahneman looks at the mental processes that cause us to be optimistic and pessimistic, and shows how they affect how we think about risk, chance, and the future. Being optimistic can help you stay motivated, but it can also make you miss things and believe things that are not true. Role of emotions. When we make choices, our emotions are very important and they often affect our choices and tastes without us even realizing it. Kahneman talks about how feelings can change both the experiences and remembering selves, which can change how happy and healthy we think we are. Self control and willpower. Kahneman looks at the problem of self control and willpower by building on the conflict between the present and future selves. He talks about the limits of human self control and gives advice on how people can resist urges and make better decisions in the long run. The part 5, in a nutshell, mostly about how complicated humans' behavior is. It talks about how feelings, decisions, and our present and future selves interact with each other. As readers learn more about these processes, they can gain useful insights into how they behave and make better decisions for their long term health. When we analyze this particular book to read or to suggest the readers, one of the book's strength lies in its ability to simplify complex psychological concepts into accessible narratives. Kahneman's writing is clear, engaging, making even the most abstract ideas comprehensible to the layperson. He illustrates each concept with real world examples from gambler's fallacy to framing effect, allowing readers to recognize these biases in their own thinking. Furthermore, Kahneman boldly challenges conventional wisdom, prompting readers to reassess their preconceived notions about human rationality and decision making. By exposing the inherent flaws in our decision making process, he encourages a deeper understanding of human behavior, one that acknowledges both our cognitive limitations and our capacity for self awareness. My personal reflections on this book, Thinking Fast and Slow, has had a profound impact on my perception of decision making. Reading the book has heightened my awareness of cognitive biases and shortcuts that shape my judgment, leading me to approach decisions with increased caution and critical thinking. Moreover, Kahneman emphasis on the importance of slow thinking has inspired me cultivate patience and analytical rigor in my thought process. I highly recommend Thinking Fast and Slow to anyone interested in critical thinking, decision making, psychology, economics, or simply understanding the complexities of human mind. It is a thought-provoking journey that will challenge your assumptions and expand your intellectual horizons. Whether you are an experienced scholar or a curious beginner, this book provides invaluable insights into the complexities of the human mind, making it a valuable read for individuals at any level of expertise. In conclusion, Thinking Fast and Slow is masterpiece of cognitive science. Cognitive science means it's related to thinking and ideas, decision making, critical thinking, offering a compelling synthesis of decades of research into human decisions. Daniel Kahneman's brilliance shines through on every page, making this book essential reading for anyone seeking to unravel the mysteries of mind. So I thank Akshay and Professor Hemchandra Reddy sir for initiating this wonderful opportunity, giving me this wonderful opportunity. And thank you for listening to me patiently. Matthew, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Suresh, for bringing out the two dimensions of thinking fast and thinking slow. And we are very much indebted for your active presentation on this particular scientific popular book. Uh, and it's not like a scientific proposition you are making. You made the entire book so simple that it is understandable for any common listener. So once again, I thank you very much for bringing out this popular science book of 2011, Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. Dear
Thank you, sir.
viewers,
Thank you.
again next Friday we will again meet with a Telugu book review. Till then, be safe and be sound. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.